Hello, everybody. Thank you, Rob, for the audio check. And this looks good. Pretty cool. And here we go. Like this. Okay. So, hello, everybody. Just going to get up and running a few of the standards, the HF Underground website for parts. And apparently there's one right now in 6925, possibly. Was there an hour ago at least. Upper sideband, we have the IBI space with schedules, and we have preom with number stations. So we'll see what's up there. So today's radios are the FTDX10 in the back. I decided to use the Ethon Elite 750. And I got the St. Jean ATS 505. And I got an SDR, the SDR Play, not the SDR Play, the HF, AirSpy HF Plus Discovery on the laptop. So that's the selection of radios that are going to be used today. So I think that's going to be a nice little selection. We're going to talk about things. We got some questions that come from viewers. I asked last week if you had questions that you're kind of shy to ask and you want to be, anonymous and ask them to send them. So we got a few questions that got into the email throughout the week. So this is kind of topic today, and we're going to talk radio and just have fun listening to the radio. There's it was actually stronger earlier. It's not the same. I believe they switched now, but still not a bad signal from Voice of America on 15580. It was very strong just before they switched the transmitter sites at just before the show started. Now they switched. I think they're in Bots. Did they switch to Botswana? Let me check that out here. So let me check, where were they from before? So I was listening before from 19 to 20, and from 19 to 20, so it was coming from Botswana. But now they've do a 20 to 21 from Botswana, but I guess they probably changed the direction, the pattern of where they're broadcasting, because it's not as strong as it was up to 20 hours. 18 to 20 is the strongest here. It's really, really almost like a local shortwave local station. It was very, very good. Now it's kind of a little weaker, but it's still there. So anyways, welcome aboard, and we're going to check out the show today. So welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave Show. We are here once a week on Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time. We talk about radio. We just have fun sharing what we hear, what we tune. We tune the bands. We answer questions. We have a lot of fun. Amongst radio geeks, I would guess. And it's always fun to have everybody around to talk about radio. There's a chat room. Well, my name is Joel. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And there's a beautiful chat room. Wonderful, great people that are here, and it's always fun. And we, of course, have a Facebook group. When all of this is over, the Facebook group is where we go, and we just enjoy the hobby of radio listening, and we geek out, and people share what they're hearing, and tune the bands, the utility signals, international broadcasts, and so on. And so we're having fun as always. So welcome aboard, everyone. Richard Wagner, nice to have you here from Northeast Illinois. We have Bobby, Master Players Radio and Television Plus Gaming. Nice to have you here. WA5107 SWL in Louisiana. We have Danny, Shortwave and Radio DX. Nice to have you on board from Yonkers, New York. Danny Shortwave, thank you very much. Yes, we did reach 40,000 subscribers this week. And here's my non-alcoholic drink, as you guys might know. Sorry, I am with a friend of mine in a 1 year without alcohol. So this is just sparkling water and cranberry juice. So cheers, everyone. And so, yeah, 40,000 subscribers, which is, I think, a pretty amazing thing when you consider that the channel caters to something very unique and very niche. It's not everybody that, on my tech channel, it's easier to rate to get people there because there's a lot of people with computers and technology. But shortwave radio is not. You don't have someone with a shortwave radio at every corner street. So reaching 40,000 subscribers, I think it's a pretty cool thing. So thanks so much, and proves that radio is alive, and there are people interested in it. Rob in Phoenix, Arizona, nice to have you on board. Robert Cross, nice to have you on board, my friend. Yes, you guys have the series of AM channels that are shutting down, unfortunately, which is sad. Matt, nice to have you here, and no problem. Take care and relax and take it easy, my friend. MDK2. We have Robert Cross. Nice to have you here. We have David's Radio Room. Nice to have you on board from Central Georgia. We have Robert Cross says, I've been very annoyed with AM radio last week. I stormed off the radio when I heard the bad news. Yeah, and it's everywhere. The AM band is very affected by a lot of different problems. The problem with the AM band mostly is, first of all, it's not like FM. FM, you just put, you don't need a lot of space. On FM, you could just technically stick up a, vertical antenna and broadcast. On AM, you got to have these fancy antennas. And if you have a lot of power, you got to have, land. You got to have these really big towers. All of that costs a lot of money. Then you've got the interference problem, the talk about electric cars possibly, making impossible the listening of the AM band. All of that together, what it does is creates a really toxic environment for the AM radio. And one of the statistics that were of the AM band in the UK, and we talked about it on the International Radio Report last week. According to their own statistics, less than 2% of people are listening to AM radio. And, it made me start thinking about here in Montreal, what's on the AM band? So in Montreal, we have one station that's extremely popular, which is CJAD, which is the Anglo station, Anglo talk station here. But put it in perspective. It's an Anglophone station, but Quebec province is majority Francophone. So it is the most popular Anglo station. But when you put the numbers in perspective, it's actually a small market because it caters to a small audience of Anglophone listeners. So it's not that, it's the top market for Anglo, but it's not that popular when you think about it because it caters to a smaller audience. But even that, remove that station, and maybe there's TSN Sports. I would guess Some people do listen to TSN Sports Radio. That probably caters to a specific audience that loves sports. But even then, the rest of the band, I don't see people listening to much of what's, there's ethnic stations. We got one now. We're going to talk about it tomorrow in the International Radio Report. We got a Asian community station. It's fifth time that it has to explain itself in front of the CRTC because it doesn't follow the rules and the regulations that are being asked. And there's looming possibility that it might get shut down, like CGMS 1040 got shut down, and nobody takes these frequencies. I mean, from what I know, the CGMS towers and everything, it's still there. It's just nobody's interested in that. And so, sorry, I'm about to sneeze, and I don't want to sneeze because I fell on the ice last week, and I have a pain here in the rib cage. So when I actually sneeze, it really hurts bad. So I don't want to sneeze. So, anyways, I started thinking that what? If you remove the Anglo station, I'm not even sure 2% of people around here listen to AM on the bands. I mean, I've never I tune AM band for purely for curiosity and DXing purposes. I don't listen to the AM band. Apart from that, it's not like the old days of this, 60s, 70s, 80s, where AM was kind of exciting. There was these personalities, some interesting programming. Today, it's I listen to you guys AM station in the US. I mean, it's a big mess. I can't imagine listening to more than 5 minutes of it without going mad. It's politics, wall to wall, and that's just I don't know. I think you guys need to need to have better AM radio stations because it's just crazy. Um, Here it's not as bad. Here we don't really have too much polarization in politics on the radio. It's more there's more of kind of a leveling of different programs in talk radio. Still, the AM band is we could say the AM band is dead in Montreal pretty much. What we have in Montreal is 690 TSN Sports, 800 CJAD Talk, 600 and 940. Kind of a big joke, playing music all the time with not much else going on. Then we have 1410. We have 1280, which is an ethnic station, 1410, which is an Asian station. We have 1450, which is a Arabic language station. Then we've got 1610. There's 1650, that's kind of religious. 1690, which is community college radio, which is the Concordia University. Kind of a boring band. We have 1570, which is out in Laval, just out north, which plays old, francophone music from the 60s that I'm not even sure they have much listeners. I don't know. The AM band here is definitely boring. And we have the east part of Canada that doesn't have much in term of AM anymore. So I don't know. It's one difficult thing to see where anything positive about the AM radio band personally, and a higher noise level all the time. It's like shortwave, shortwave. What kills shortwave? And I'll say it again and again. It's noise. Really, it's noise. Why? Because people left because there was higher and higher noise. It was difficult to listen to anything. And the majority of people are not like us. We will sit down in front of static, listening to something, that's kind of rough, but listenable, and we'll listen to it. The majority of people want to sit down and hear something that is clear, like an FM broadcast. they're not going to be listening to shortwave. That's definite, because they're going to be like, "What the hell?" It's not like in the '60s, '70s when stations were clear and loud. And as noise, I'm pretty sure if we had a graph of when people left shortwave listening, um, look at the rise of noise and the amount of people listening to shortwave dwindling off. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of that. And for those that think the internet has something to do with it, the internet is not. People don't stream. People don't stream. There are some stats, and people will listen to specific podcasts, but people don't stream stations or things like that in general. Very little people do that. And one of the things that happens is that people were leaving shortwave listening way before internet was even a thing, and way before the internet was actually even capable of giving us content like we have today. So you see that the rise of the internet and less people listening to shortwave don't go together. But rise of noise, lowering of people listening, that does. Plus the fact that there's a few things have changed. One of the big attractions of listening to shortwave, we got to say it. The Cold War, the Eastern Bloc countries, and all of that. Shortwave was, if Cold War was still there, we probably would have a lot more coverage on shortwave today. Why? Because a lot of the content would be blocked in the Eastern Bloc countries from the Western world, and the other way around is like we would like to, we would bombard the Eastern countries with broadcasts like we did before. Maybe Radio Canada International would still be alive. Things like that. There was a reason for it. The Cold War was a major reason for shortwave to be alive. Cold War left, and there was suddenly not that big of a need for broadcasters. They kind of redefined, what do we do, and we're spending money and doing something. What do we do next? And that's the problem. What do we do next? And once again, showing that the internet is of no interest. The majority of stations that left never got on the internet after. They just left, which shows there's no interest in broadcasting on the internet, of streaming of any kind. Because if there would, we talked a couple of weeks ago, I was saying that what was a really good idea, which was the World Radio Network, WRN. I mean, that was great. I listened to that 20 years ago. It became more and more boring as all the stations that used to be on shortwave were broadcasting through it. So I thought, well, maybe this is the future of shortwave. We're going to have the World Radio Network give us every country around the world with their news and their broadcasts. And what happened is that the World Radio Network got a lot more of other types of content that you could get on the internet that never were on shortwave. And slowly, as the station disappeared, so did their World Radio Network content. And so today, I look at the World Radio schedules of what's on. There's a few things that are kind of interesting, but honestly, it's nothing fantastic. It's not like I could tune in and hear all of those shortwave broadcasters, but on the internet if I wanted. And so it's the media is in a changing mode. Everybody's searching what to do. Um, Radio listening as a whole is still popular, but radio listeners are dwindling. And you know why? Once again, not because they're going on the internet, because the automation, the fact that they put on these shows that are pre-programmed, recorded in advance. A lot of radio isn't live anymore. Well, that turns off a lot of people. Live radio with somebody there as you're listening, and interaction with the user and the listener is what attracted a lot of people to radio. Also, talk about AM FM radio, and forget about music on radio. We used to listen to our favorite songs on FM, or on we'd listen to our favorite station. I'd listen to Shom FM here for rock music. I'd listen to CKMF 94.3 for the pop 80s music I was listening to, and it was cool. And you waited for your favorite songs to play, and you would, I'd be there on the Saturday. I still remember, I'd be there every Saturday afternoon listening to the top 40s, the top 20 or top 40 songs of the week. You wanted to hear that what's the top 40 this week? Today, music is consumed in another way. It's not through radio you discover artists anymore. It's, through I got YouTube music that I subscribe to. And you know what? YouTube music, like probably like Spotify and all of these services, has quite an interesting AI to it, making you discover things. If you let it like shuffle through, you choose a song, it after a certain time it kind of knows you. It knows, well, this is the songs you like. This is maybe something, and sometimes they'll throw in a song. It's gonna be, maybe this will be something you will enjoy, and it makes me discover new artists through that way of listening. And I don't know. I don't remember the last time I turned on a radio to listen to music. Honestly, there's a big, big change, and radio itself still has a huge value because radio is the only thing that goes through when everything goes down. So it's important to have radio stations around, in not just shortwave, in terms of when something political happens and you need to have the news broadcast to cross borders. Shortwave's really, really good for that. But locally, our radio stations, we need to have radio stations that are going to be on the air and give us what's happening when when power goes out. Here about a month ago, well, around Christmas, we had a really powerful storm here, and we reached about 100,000 people without power. Some of these people, it took almost a week before they actually got the power back. Well, don't you're not going to charge your stuff there, and you're not going to, things are not working. You don't have your computer with the internet, and what happens is that, well, you've got radio. Radio is your mean of getting news and what's happening. And term in times of like in down south, or you guys with hurricanes, in Florida and all the East Coast, the South, radio is playing a big role. It's important that it maintains that role, of being there. But it's we're in times of partly in times of, yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of things you could do. We have a lot of stuff that you can, that now divides your time. But at the same time, maybe we're forgetting some of the most important media around, which is radio. That when things go bad, it might be the only thing that's going to reach you. So a long speech for radio here. What else do we have? Robert Cross bought an antenna tuner from eBay. Scott, KC2C80. Nice to have you on board from North Boston. 10 miles south of Buffalo, where the weather's cold and yucky. We had a foot of snow in the last 24 hours. So it's white, and it's kind of cool today. Ricky, nice to have you on board. Ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. Nice to have you here. Robert, nice to have you here. Reading you 5 and 9. Cool. Art, nice to have you here. K2ADC from New Jersey. Kevin Murray, nice to have you here from windy Wyoming. J Projects, nice to have you here. Garage Brennan, nice to have you here. Kevin Murray is KK7HGD. We have Mark, W9USO. Nice to have you here from Oak Creek, Wisconsin, saying hello. We have, you made me think something here is I made a lot of contacts, and I made sure that on my QRZ.com page, I mentioned that I have live shows every Saturday at 20 UT on the channel. I'm hoping that as I make contacts and people go and see my QRZ page, that we might add more people here, including ham radio operators that might be interested in, joining a show about radio. Sal Domino, nice to have you here. KM4PPV in Kentucky. Got my second WSL card, QSL card from Radio Romania. Cool. Cool. Congratulations, Mr. C's Garage. Nice to have you here. To Rogue Tim from Baltimore, Maryland. Nice to have you here. Robert Varner, Voice of America has never left shortwave. It's still on the air, absolutely. Voice of America is just focused its attention now to Asia and Africa, where it is broadcasting, but definitely. Actually, in 30 minutes, if you want to hear a good signal from Voice of America, 11/7/20, it's a music show mostly, but yep, still on the air. 15580 here on the East Coast, at least. 15580 all afternoon is usually pretty good. 000, nice to have you here from New Jersey, KD2ANN. Chuck, nice to have you on board. Just check it out here. Just go down here. Lost my spot. Lost my spot. I hate it when I do that. So, okay, here we go. Chuck, nice to have you here. KN5KVO from South Texas. We have Sheila. Nice to have you here. Sheila from Belleville, Ontario, Canada. Richard, nice to have you here from Albany, New York. WA2157SWL. Radio Romania, clear on 6020 at 0300 every night. So pretty cool. Says tried medium wave again, and I feel like my head might explode. Yeah, I totally understand. Jim F from Rhode Island, nice to have you here. We have Keegan DXer, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. We have RJDA Dakota, nice to have you here. Michael, congratulations, 40,000 strong. Cool, thanks. Steven, nice to have you here from Massachusetts. Was born in Montreal, but moved at the age of 9 to Boston. Cool. And 6 RLS, nice to have you here from Berkeley, California. Robin. Erica Trell, nice to have you on board from a cloudy Boston. 000, nice to have you here. We have Lost Branch Ranch. Nice to have you on board. And definitely cool to have so many subscribers. Absolutely. It is really cool. We have Lost Branch Ranch, looking for the right affordable antenna. Do it yourself. Well, you know what? I always say the first thing you should try out for a shortwave antenna is a piece of wire outdoors and bring it in with a coax so that it's shielded and see what happens. See what happens. 000 says, I heard they are doing away with AM in new cars. Well, there's a lot of electric cars that they don't want to put in an AM radio because you wouldn't receive anything anyways. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. Yeah, Erica Trout, they're angry phones. It's even a smaller market because it's like the angry phones definitely that are listening to 800. I mean, they're stuck in the past. It's like it's crazy. When every time I tune in for something, just testing a radio, for example, it's like, yeah, okay. RJ Dakota says some stations here might be playing musical chairs here real soon. A couple of medium wave stations might be switching frequencies. One large medium wave station might be moving to FM. So kind of interesting. Salamino says, I do get TSN Sports in the morning in Kentucky. Neil, nice to have you here from the UK. Robert Cross want people to move to DAB radio, internet smart speaker, which most people have the choice to listen. We were talking about something last week. We talked about DAB being pushed in Europe a lot, and what happens is that I started thinking about how DAB Plus was the best way to do HD for a simple reason is that it has its separate band. So you have AM, you have FM, and you have DAB band. So you tunes like you would tune a radio, a standard radio. Where HD radio, you got to explain to people that, well, you got to listen. A great example that CJ80 800 AM is HD. But how do you explain to someone, yeah, but you got to tune 107.3, the French music station, and go to HD2 in order to have CJ80 HD? That's kind of, people the standard regular people will not understand that. It's kind of weird. Yeah, Richard, just taking a breath of air, and it's like it's really here. It's really painful. What happened is I went to the electronics store. So you guys saw the picture that I posted of the old radios at the flea market. So I thought, last Sunday, I thought I'm gonna take a walk, go to the electronics store. I need some wire, about 100 feet of wire, and a few things. I bought a new my old multimeter left its multimeter life, so bought a brand new one, which is really neat. So pretty cool and not expensive. It does everything, so it's like $40. Like, yeah, okay. Even has a lighted display. So I thought, well, that's good. So bought a new multimeter and 100 feet of wire and things I needed. So while I was going there, what happened is I slipped on a piece of ice. That would have been fine because I was able to catch my balance. But when I moved my feet forward to catch my balance, I hit a block of ice, which blocked my feet from going further. So I just fell flat in a snowbank that was there, but it was very hard. It was more ice than snow. So I felt like this. I fell on my arm. So still quite painful. And add the fact that I had to do chores this week that needed me to use a lot of force, including pushing a wheelchair and bringing a wheelchair up and down stairs with my friends. It's like, yeah, I'm not giving it time to heal, so it's still painful. Keegan DeXter here's the International Radar Report from CKUT 9.3 Montreal from on the IRR YouTube channel, and using your Talking House AM radio transmitter on 910 kilohertz and relayed on C Crane FM transmitter on 91.9. That's pretty cool. For those that would like to check out our international radio reports and don't know about it, we have a weekly show, me and Sheldon, our co-host. And what we do is have a weekly show called the International Radar Report. It airs live on CKUT 90.3 FM here in Montreal, and from 15:30 to 16 UTC, 10:30 a.m. Sunday morning. And I just posted a YouTube channel where you can go and check out our YouTube channel where we post the show every week, usually within about an hour. So the next show is going to be tomorrow, posted around 1700 UT. And we talk about radio news from local and international events of all sorts. And we close the show with the ham radio contests. So why not subscribe to our channel and listen to our show? Like I said, you can listen. You can stream CKUT 90.3 live. You can listen to the show archived on ckut.ca website. You can listen to the show or watch what I do on YouTube with the show, with pictures that go with the different stories we talk about. So lots of ways that you can actually enjoy our 30-minute show about radio. So why not check that out? Forget your life, news, traffic, and weather every 10 minutes. You know, there's one thing that I like that I would like to have here in Montreal. I love the fast pace news of WCBS 880. It's like a fast pace, action. It's like, here's what's happening. Here's the weather. Here's the traffic. You're done. 10 minutes after, it's like, you know what's happening and you move on. And that's the kind of thing I would love to see in Montreal that we do not have. All right, JD Dakota, nice to have you here. And do have one medium wave station that I listen to on 1220 that plays rock and American and music mix. Cool. KLPW. That's nice. Remember, it makes me remember the days I'd listen to music on AM. I mean, Joel Baker, nice to have you here from Arizona. Houses are covered in stucco here. Someone told me that stucco interferes with radio signals. Do you know if that is true? I'm not sure it interferes that much with radio signals. It might attenuate them, but I don't think it does much. Concrete does interfere with radio signals a lot, but stucco, I don't think so. Ricky, over here in Calgary, people were wondering if CHQR 770 would flee to 107.3 FM. Turns out the station will be on both. So that's kind of interesting. Carl Icon, I avoid the opinionated stuff, but I listen to Media Wave all the time. Music, sports, news. There's tons of stuff. So easy to DX. FM is also great, but harder to DX. Kathleen, nice to have you here, my friend. Jeff King, nice to have you here. There are a few AM stations I listen to. WSM Nashville, still the Grand Ole Opry. I like KMOX St. Louis. Turbo Tim, top AM stations in Baltimore are going to establish a presence on FM. A lot of stations want to move to FM. They want to dominate the FM band, which is sad because think about the coverage of an AM signal. AM signals go so far compared to FM, which is sad. Danny Shortwave, Radio DX. I enjoy listening to Zoomer Radio out of Toronto at night. Carl Icon, I'm lucky to be rural for medium wave DXing, but I get your point. AM in big cities is so noisy, it's unpleasant. Keegan DXer says, I hear Zoomer CFZM Toronto under and over KRMG Tulsa, 740 at night occasionally. Sal Domino says, Zoomer Radio, good one from Toronto. I listen to it every day. Kathleen, speaking of noise, I have two U-loops upstairs. The one connected over RG58 has way more noise than the one connected with a thicker low-loss cable. You know what? What is important to check, and that's one thing that I did check when I got my RG8X coax to make the full distance, 80 feet from my backyard antenna up to the radio here, is how good the shielding is. That is extremely important to check out. The shielding of cables is not all the same, and some don't have as good shield as others, which will let in more noise to the center connector. And so there are a lot of things like that you got to be careful. I suspect that your lower loss cable probably has better shielding around it. I wouldn't be surprised. Paul, VT Radio, AA1SU. Nice to have you here from Northern Vermont. James Radio check. So now they're going to destroy the FM band with all that garbage. Yeah. Salamino says, I hear KRMG in here while hearing Zoomer. Cannot null Zoomer radio, but I can get a Tulsa clear on the mobile. J Project's political angle definitely made RHC and Voice of Korea interesting in a recent year. Ricky, on my SDR, the noise on HF from the washing machine in our building looks like the cage Q puts up around the Enterprise on every first episode of Star Trek. Oh, man. There's a lot of stuff that makes noise, and that's pretty crazy. One thing I had to do for my antenna for using the Yaesu here was to actually increase the grounding capability of the shield of my long cable. What I noticed is that when I put the 80 feet, my noise floor went up. So my only explanation was that the coax was picking up noise because the other one was 25 feet long in the kitchen only. It did not have as much noise. The antenna is the same. The only explanation you get from that is, okay, the shielding is not doing its job. So what I did, and I live at the third floor, so grounding. What do? It's complicated, and putting a wire up to down to the ground is not grounding. It's too long. It doesn't do its purpose. But I got a big metal shed in the back that goes all the way down. So what I thought is, how about I take the shield of the coax, and what I did, that 100 feet of wire, a part of it is actually used for that. What I did is on the connector, the outside connector, which is connected to the shield of the RG8X, I put I looped some wire from that copper wire around it, bare copper wire, and I took about 20 feet of wires so that I could pass it on the balcony, and I put the other end around one of the screws that's holding the metal sheets of the shed together to see what would happen. And I'm happy because it lowered my noise floor, which means that it kind of does partly a job of grounding the shield to the radio. And this plays two roles where I find interesting, because one is the fact that lowers my noise is cool, but also it means that probably when I transmit, I got less radiation going outside from the coax because of that also, and it's kept much more to the antenna in the back. But I still have some stuff. For example, I'll need to maybe put some filters or something. I am unable to transmit. If I wanted right now to transmit to show you guys, I couldn't, because the audio console, picks up the RF. So you would hear distortion in the audio console from my voice in sideband, for example. So I need to, and the console has these really long wires sticking out, so they act like antennas technically. So I'm going to have to find a way to shield the console to prevent the RF from getting out. The other big problem here is I got no access to ground, and it's very, very tough. The only thing that's electrically grounded is the heating unit that's on the floor here. That has a ground. It's probably the only thing that has a ground, because this building has been made in 1950. The electrical code in 1950 did not require you to have a ground. So even though my electric outlets have three prongs, three pins, the ground pin is not effective. It has only the two electrical pins to it. The only outlets that are grounded here are the stove, washer, not even the washer, the dryer, the stove, and the electrical heating outlets. Anything else is not grounded at all. So that's the problem of living in an old building that, was not made to code of today. New houses today, all of that is, fixed and everything's grounded everywhere. So, I have issues of trying to lower the amount of RF around here with all sorts of, grounding and all sorts of things. So I'm looking for all sorts of solutions that I can actually use that would help me lower, like, prevent my console from getting RF, and trying to even maybe have my coax shield grounded much better, even better than it is right now. But at least part of a solution is done with grounding on the metal shed. We'll see for the rest. What else do we have? Gareth Brennan says there's something about broadcast versus on demand that is appealing, feels more connected. Yeah. Danny Shortwave says, I still enjoy AM radio. Yes, it is not for everyone. I listen to it every night on my bedside. What else? Jim's Radio Check. The Chicago FM market is still strong, although there's starting to be a lot of religion and politics. Richard Califano, all stations that play Christmas music play the same 20 songs. It's like all pop music stations or rock stations you listen to, they all play the same 200 songs. It's like, yeah, the Doors has more than just Light My Fire. There's a lot more songs. Jetcrafter, nice to have you here from Southern Maine, getting various tones on 6955 upper sideband. So it's possibly a pirate station. Let's check it out here. I'm just going to refresh HF Underground. Yeah, a 90 tone 6955. So let me check it out here. 6955. I'm going to go here. 955. See if we hear anything. Right now, I don't see much, but we'll see. If anything pops up, we'll hear it. What else do we have? Michael, yeah, the music on the radio is definitely compressed. An example yesterday, I was listening to my, on Friday night, I've got my 80s. I get, there's a community station out of Longueuil, just south of Montreal, that has an 80s show from 6 to 10 p.m. on Friday night. And that's my go-to radio of the week. And every week they play a different year. So like yesterday was 1982. And, they play the top 10 songs of 1982 from this week. And it's really cool. And then there's a lot of interaction with the Facebook group and everything. And they played a song that had a lot of bass, and it was totally dominating. And you could see that every other instrument was kind of suppressed. And you could see how radio stations on FM, the way they push audio is not the best in the world. Laniak loves AMDXing. Pulled in New York City from Minnesota yesterday. Lots of other faraway cities too. Cool. That is definitely cool. Ricky says, I lived through the 1998 ice storm. No power for a week. Some people were out for longer. Without radio, I would not have known what was going on. Yep. That was a great, that's a great example when radio was needed. Richard says AM used to cover hometown information in the 60s, 70s. If something happened at 2 in the morning, you could tune in and know what was happening. Try that today. At 2 in the morning, no station is going to tell you what's happening because there's nobody there. Ron C, nice to have you on board. Says they are selling the Ethan satellite radio on Amazon. I thought it was a dud. It is. It's they're selling a bad radio. They're just trying to sell a radio that is flawed, basically. RGA Dakota, we are out of power for about a week once. Shortwave and medium wave were the way to go. All our FM stations seem to play the same stuff, except for a couple. Danny Shortwave was doing some FT8 on 10 meters earlier today with my Xiegu G90 connected to my end-fed antenna. Cool. I did some a little bit of FT8 on. I was on 12 today. I did a little bit of FT8 just before, from about noon, so 17 UT to about roughly 18. I got Sweden. I tried, man. That station from Angola is driving me nuts. Delta 2 Uniform Yankee, I believe is the call sign. They're there every day. It was coming in on 12. I tried and tried, I never got through. Oh man. What else do we have? Ron Sears from Saint-Hubert, Quebec, just south of Montreal. TVD Exter, ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. Also near Montreal. We have Brad Shaver, nice to have you here from Northern Illinois. RJ Dakota, 11,720 and 15,580 both boom in here. Ricky says, I can't imagine being stuck in a prolonged power outage and having enough backup power to keep my internet running and to charge at least one smartphone. Radio is so important. Yes, absolutely. Harold Anderson, nice to have you here from Norway, LB1NH. I had a contact with a Norwegian station, ham station, yesterday, I believe. It was cool. Lima Alpha 2 something. Michael, Gilles number 1. Christian Marcoux, salut. J'espère que tu vas bien. Nice to have you on board from North Bay, Ontario. Aerial Imaging, nice to have you on board. Thank you so much, Ricky, for the 40,000 plus subscribers on the channel. Garrett Brennan says, anyone tried a shortwave car radio receiver? Saw one on eBay, but not sure how well it would work. Today, it would be, with the increased noise output of a lot of cars. Back in the 80s, we had to worry mostly about the ignition and the, we had a little, kind of pulse noise from the motor, but it was easy to kind of, suppress with the noise blankers. Today's cars are kind of computers on wheels. Craig S, 1100 WTAM is my channel of choice. Jim's Radio Check got a hybrid car that runs off battery part-time, and I have no problem with medium wave radio. It's the new car that are like totally electric that seem to be a big problem. A lot of them don't want to put AM radio in it because they're too noisy. Enno Poppin, nice to have you here from northern part of Germany. Eric Cottrell, there used to be DAB in Canada, but it was shut down. Montreal had the service years ago. I wonder why, it's crazy because, I don't know. Garrett says, Ireland completely abandoned its DAB, staying on FM for foreseeable future. 0-100, I use my apartment building's downspout and gutter for a shortwave antenna. It works rather well. Cool. Keegan DXer, I use my Ethan Greening Edition satellite with SSB connected to the car audio auxiliary input and a 2-meter ham whip on touted car for external antenna. Cool. RGA Dakota says, and it truly confuses some people when you mention it HD 2, 3, or 4. Most people I know still have no idea what HD is radio is even. Yeah, it's trying it's I get the interesting part of HD radio is the multiple content, but It's how complicated it is to somebody that's not very radio. It's like, yeah, I was even surprised. I was surprised when I got my first HD radio, the St. G and HDR14, and I thought, oh, CG80's on HD. I went to 800 kilohertz AM, and it's like, why isn't it HD? I don't get it. And I couldn't understand until I scanned the FM band and noticed, oh, look at that. CG80's on 107.3 HD2. Yeah, try to explain that to somebody. Oh, you got to go on FM for your favorite AM station to be on HD. Is that what? Yeah, and you got to tune a French language music station for your Anglo station on HD. What? Try that. Mickey Dalmage, nice to have you on board from Short Park off to the curling rink. So take care, my friend. Have fun. No, Tylenol doesn't work. It doesn't do anything for me. Tylenol actually doesn't do anything for me ever. Ever. Every time I took Tylenol, it was like taking candy. Same thing. RJ Dakota says a simple slip on ice can be extremely dangerous. Be very cautious and careful. So, yeah. Rodney Cheek, love the show. Moved to Georgia. Moved from Georgia to Texas over 10 years ago and let my GC license expire. Got to go back on the air. Will my dated 90s equipment still be relevant, or should I plan an upgrade? I think your 90s equipment will be fine, honestly. When you have decent or good equipment from the past, there's no need to buy something new. It does the job, and most of the time it'll do the job, do the job perfectly. Hey, Fastload, nice to have you here from Montreal. Yes, the wall is on fire. What else do we have? Hook 911. Nice to have you here. You know what, Carl Icon, when the FAA computers went berserk, I completely forgot. It must have been some interesting listening on the aeronautical bands. I'm pretty sure. How about 1010 WINS? Here, most of the time, 1010 is dominated by CFRB Toronto. So I hear WINS from time to time, but it mostly, if I like, 9 out of 10 times I'll tune 1010. What's going to dominate is really CFRB Toronto. But I love WCBS. Every time I scan the band, I can't help but stop like for 10, 15 minutes on WCBS and just listen to the news, what they have to say before I continue on. It's kind of nice. I really would love to have a French, both English and French language equivalent to WCBS here in Montreal. That'd be nice. What else do you have? What else do we have? Aerial imaging. We're still got lots of that type of AM radio in Chicago. 780 is 24-hour news. Traffic weather, 720 and 890. As well, with only periods of syndicated talk. We even have 2 full-time sports talk. On 730, was it 730 before it was before it was a traffic station, which I don't honestly, I don't understand a traffic station today. We all have smartphones. We just go to our Google Maps and ask for directions. It actually tells us that there's slowdowns and problems. Before there was a traffic station, they had a 24-hour news channel, but you know what? It was not upbeat enough, and it was not. They missed the point and what a good 24-hour news channel needs to be, and pretty much nobody knew it existed, anyways. Fred Waterer, no problem. Nice to have you here. That's very mismanaged, RGA Dakota. Exactly. That's exactly the thing. What else do we have? What else do we have? If I miss out on anybody, please say hello again. Mr. Squirrel, upstate New York. Nice to have you here. Nick Hammond, nice to have you here. We have Rancia says, I moved to another apartment in my building. The rear, my MLA 30 still performs indoor. Cool. That's important. It's always scary moving from one place to another because you never know the noise you're going to have around you. Ricky, CBC and CHQR are probably staying on AM around here because of all the mountains west of Calgary. It would be unbelievably hard to get the same coverage up there on FM. You know, here when the CBC moved from the AM band to FM, a lot of people complained in various parts of Montreal that they couldn't receive it. They actually not only have an FM outlet on the Montreal to broadcast, they had to put low power FM repeaters in different parts of the city to help certain areas that just didn't have any coverage anymore. I mean, it's like, yeah, okay. Then Shortwave, I have 75 feet of LMR 400 for my end-fed antenna to my basement shack. I use that one for my HF radio switch. Might be overkill, works well. The important thing is it works well. The rest, whatever you use, there's different. I would have gone for LMR cabling if I would have used it for, above 50 megahertz because on RG8X it's good, but the loss gets really quick when you start going to the UHF bands. But still, do you use a common mode choke on your end-fed wire? So my wire is where it's like a V wire and going into what is it? A 49-to-1 unbalanced and balanced transformer, and then goes to the transceiver directly through the feed line. Fred Waterer, the late Brian Smith of ODXA was the biggest AM 740 fan ever. He created a Yahoo group that was very active. Still have many friends from the group. Huh. Catalan, currently training on Ham Raider Trainer 4.0. Cool. What else do we have? So it's technically forget your life and end-fed into a 49-to-1 unbalanced and balanced transformer. What else do we have? Hook 91, need a ground rod outside and a grounding bar on the back of the radio. Yeah. The problem is grounding when you're at the third floor isn't grounding. It's kind of difficult. I need to check more documentations. Peter John Fetting, nice to have you here from South Africa, ZR6 PCF, and says, good to be listening to Shortwave radio stream. Can you repeat the radio station your program is broadcasting on Sunday? The International Radio Report is on CKUT 90.3 FM. So Charlie, Kilo, Uniform, Tango, 90.3 FM. You can stream that on from 1530 to 16 UTC if you want to listen live. We record the show on Friday. We used to be live in the studio there before the pandemic. Pandemic hit, and we started doing the recording and sending it in. And we decided that we better continue like that because also there's the fact that the editing that I can do makes it even more professional. Anarchy dude, not bad at all. Hope you're doing great too. Welcome aboard from Bulgaria. What else do we have? Hook 911. I was wondering why a sharp guy like him would be running without a proper ground. Keegan the Xer. Remember David Letterman, Paul Schaefer mentioning CKLW on the Late Show, David Letterman on CBS back in the early 2010s. RJ Dakota noticed that the new WRMI Legends has a lot wider range and music variety than the old WTWW. Yeah, I guess he got like more stuff that he can do, or maybe he's more relaxed and there's no rules basically. And the 6 RLS, I used to ground my Yaesu transceiver to the cold water pipe nearby. Says don't bother anymore. My house also old and doesn't have true grounded outlets. What else do we have? Anarchy Dude says, I have a tech question for you. In the last Patch Tuesday update, I've got a weird thing happen to my PC. The update goes smoothly, no freezes, nothing. But after restart, when it booted to Windows, in the event viewer, I'm getting a weird error. Logger ID 18 fatal hardware error processor core. Don't pay too much attention to the event viewer. There's a lot of errors that are kind of false errors. That's not necessarily a problem. RGA Dakota says the new WRMI Legends only got better. Hook 911. The important thing in Narky Dude is just to know that if your computer is working fine, there's no problem. Hook 911. Does anyone know anything about an AM broadcast that it's outside the top of the medium wave band and that seems to be a ham radio show? Yeah, 1860 kilohertz. Hook 911. It's the WA0RCR, I think it's called. Whiskey Alpha Zero, Romeo Alpha Romeo, Romeo Charlie Romeo, something like that. It's on 1860 kilohertz. It's kind of a 24-hour broadcast, and they have a ham radio show. They even play Glenn Hauser's World of Radio. I don't remember which time, but it's ham radio news all the time. I used when my noise floor was low, where I lived before. I would hear that easily here back then. But it's 1860 kilohertz on the 160 meter band, AM mode. What else do we have? Just go down. Francis Moore, nice to have you here from the UK. Shortwave Archive, been doing some AMDXing recently and picked up my first Canada station, 730 CKDM, but I had to dig it out of Mexico station. So cool. René Charbonnier, nice to have you here from the Netherlands. Hope you are well, my friend. Ricky says, yeah, similarly unaffected by Tylenol, for better or worse. Yeah. VT Radio, Jill, sometimes I listen to classic rock on AM 1680 CKDU in Oshawa, Ontario. Oh, interesting. Should check it out. I don't know, they're still playing. Are they still playing oldies? Isn't that 1580? It's 1580, you mean? Right? I think you have a typo here. I think it's 1580 kilohertz. Yes, I know that station that plays rock. They had 10 years ago, something like that. They had an actual special show that I listened to back then, focusing on the geeks like us that listen to long distance AM stations. And they had like a 2-hour show talking about it one evening. It's kind of cool. Greg says, living in rural Illinois, and all I can pick up talk in news wise over the air during the day is NPR, not the best option for someone like me that leans towards the conservative side. William, is there any good magazines anymore for shortwave listening? Well, two things you can do. There's the Canadian International DS Club that we have a digital bulletin every month that you can join, which is nice. The Messenger, which has a lot of information about radio, shortwave radio, and utilities, amateur radio, QSLing, AM band, pirates. So you can actually ask for a sample copy of this bulletin at sample at cidxclub.ca club.ca if you never asked before and if you want to join. The other thing that you can check out, there is something called the Spectrum Monitor, spectrummonitor.com. They have an electronic bulletin. It is very similar and smells and feels like the good old monitoring times of the day. That is pretty much what's left. I know in the UK there's a couple of radio magazines left also in Europe. One in the UK particularly, a radio. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but there's a few there. But here the main ones are so Spectrum Monitor is pretty good, pretty good. I should actually get the latest version Spectrum Monitor. What else do we have? So yeah, concrete, tin, yeah, anything that has some form of metallic finish in it. You know what? The news station here in Montreal, which was, I mean, I listened to that station from time to time, checking out what was happening around. I thought it was useful and fun and interesting. But you know what? Nobody knew it existed actually. I think that's one of the biggest thing. I think they didn't focus well on the market, letting everybody know, look, we've got a news station, 24-hour news station, and you can listen to us. And part of it was maybe the way it was also designed. It wasn't, you know, that um that appealing. There's something missing in all of it. But I listened to it back then. Now, I'm the kind of guy that consumes that type of broadcast. Definitely, definitely. Richard says, "Remember WTIC out of Hartford, Connecticut, back in the '60s, '70s? So much talk, so little politics." Yep, aluminum. Yeah, well, everything that's metallic, basically. Um, what else do we have? Here, William, no uppercase, or you're gonna get kicked out. Anarchy dude, I've Googled this error, but people are getting it. Have blue screens and random restarts. I don't have it. You don't have no problem. Stop worrying about it. It doesn't matter. People worry too much about what's written in the event viewer. It doesn't matter. Lex 2006, wondering if 18650 batteries have a break in period. I have cycled mine a dozen times or so, and now they are not acting up the way they did when new in the PL990. I think you're not charging them enough. I buy an external charger. I don't charge the batteries inside the radio. I found that most radios, including those that charge AA batteries, do not charge them well, honestly. Kevin, nice to have you on board. Says, you know what I hate about radio is weekend programming generally sucks. Cancer doctors and lousy financial advice. Yeah, yeah, I totally understand that. DBIC 777. Nice to have you here. KC1 PSK in Connecticut. Kellen, I learned that due to the skin effect, the loop should be as thick as possible. Hey, I'm going to start a financial advice show. Yes. For your retirement, you should buy me a shortwave radio. With your radio being the boring political stuff, yeah, I don't think it's saved the AM band. I think it's making it crappy, personally. But yeah, Spacebar, good evening. Nice to have you here. Tristan, nice to have you on board. And a good evening from Newfoundland. Been away from the live stream for a while. Nice to have you back. Alex Kaufman, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Have you ever reviewed the Panasonic DR48? Not that I know of. Enrique Navarro, nice to have you here. What the difference between a 990, 880? Is it worth to buy the 990? In short, if you have an 880, no, it's not worth to go to the 990. If you don't have any one of the both radio, they're both great. 990 has the main difference from the 880 990 is the add of what? Trying to figure out or remember. There's more precise tuning on the shortwave bands with, of course, the calibration functionality, stuff like that. But overall, often I'll say if you don't want to spend too much, you will have a great radio in the 880, and there's no need to really go to the 990. Meta Lunar, nice to have you here. Yeah, the event viewer always shows errors of all sorts of things, but the errors are not necessarily errors. What I mean by that is it will tell you about some, uh, some crashing of something because it can't do a specific task, but it's normal because in several states in the way that Windows could be at a certain time, it's totally normal that it crashes because of the way it is. So you don't look too much at the event viewer unless you have problems. The event viewer could be interesting if you have issues. It's not interesting and should not be really looked at if you have no problems. VT Radio, yeah, 1580. Yep. Radio User Magazine, Spacebar, yes. Rene Charbonnier says here in the Netherlands, everything is fine, just a little bit of rain. Cool. Doug Smith, is WTWW planning on a full return to shortwave on 5085? It already started doing some broadcasts. It eventually will probably be full time there. It's just religious though. It's not going to be. It's not going to be music. It's really not going to be music. RGA Dakota, I heard the craziness on 7200 makes me wonder how long. Well, as long as everybody's still there doing the craziness and nobody, it's crazy. Kevin, another week down without alcohol. Wanted to reach for wine last night when I was hunkered down with a good book. Had coffee instead. Cool. Let's hang in there together. Let's do it together. We're gonna be capable. So, of course, once again, cranberry juice and sparkling water. Turcawo. Hey, Jolt. Hey, chat. Nice to have you on board. Danielle Mark LeBlanc. Nice to have you here from the Shediac River, New Brunswick. Yeah, Fred Waterer has heard of the Spectrum Monitor. Oh, pretty good. There's a couple of nice articles. There's some look at radio programming. Somebody's doing some kind of you know um, of look at anything the radio programs out there and so on. I don't know. VD radio broadcasting at 1860 kilohertz is illegal. I used to get the third harmonic of AM 620 WVMT there on my old 10 Tech. Because confused me at first. Yeah, but the broadcasting there, I don't know what they did to actually have it on, but it's an amateur radio broadcast. It's not a commercial broadcast. It's the WA0RCR amateur radio gateway. They called it something like that. It broadcast there on 1860 every. I mean, it's been there. Last time I could hear it was probably somewhere like in 1994, 95. It's been there for the last 30 years or something. It's been there forever. I could actually pick up at night. Now the noise floor is too high for me to hear it, but at night I could see the line of the AM signal. So they are there all the time. So I guess I don't know if they got some special permission or anything, but they're there all the time. 1860 kilohertz AM mode. Catalin says the plugins for SDR Uno for FT8 from Allen are great. Hopefully, oops, lost it. I need to check that out. I haven't checked any of that yet. I really need to check that out. For the hopefully SDR Connect will be released soon. Yep, that one will be a game changer. Honestly, that's gonna be a multi platform. So Linux, Mac, Windows, it's going to open up a new world of probably of SDR Play users. Miss Linda Oxa, I found my old 80s, 90s carousels, made it here from a place I'd lived in for a decade. I just need to find a donor for them when I pass or whatever. I even got one from Radio Yugoslavia. That is always a big thing. We're thinking about it. I don't know. There used to be this QSL Preservation Society thing. I don't know if it still exists, where they would actually get QSLs. From what I've heard, though, is that now it's like they're getting inundated with so many QSLs and so many doubles, triples, quadruples, and a million copies of each that it's kind of getting complicated. And you know, it's a tough thing. Some people do want to have QSLs. Like a friend of mine that we had radio listening together when I was a teenager still has his QSL collection in a box. And I told him, I said, if one day you don't want him anymore, I'd pick him up. He's got some great cards. He's got cards that I didn't have. But it ends to a point where, QSL cards are things that we get attached to because we worked for them and we worked to have them. They have an emotional attachment for us. But when I see somebody selling a QSL card on eBay, I don't see why I should buy somebody else's QSL. It's not. I didn't listen to it. I didn't get the reception report in the QSL card. It's of no interest. Even if it's from a station that's long gone, it's of no interest to me. And that's the tough sell. It's like some people will like to have the QSL cards. But a lot of people are attached to their own, but don't necessarily want to have others. And it's kind of, what do you do with your QSLs? What's going to happen with all of this the day that I'm gone? Who's going to want to have a ton of radios? I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of people going to want that. I don't even want to think when I'm gone what's going to happen with all of this stuff. I got my nephew. My nephew wants to have my old computers, like the Amiga, the Commodore. He wants to have the vintage computers, the Atari. But the radio, who's going to want radios? I mean, I don't even know what you could do. You know what? For me, if I pass away tomorrow morning, what I would like is that all of those radios get a home. You know, and I know a lot of you would like to have them, but it's how do you fix that? How do you do that? How do you can't yeah, well, I in my will it says I give away all my radios to my viewers. Yeah, but they got to be shipped, they got to be sent, they got to be it's there's what are you going to do? It's sometimes it's better not to think about what's going to happen with all of that the day, I'm not going to be here anymore. TB Nostrovsky, nice to have you here from Medicine Hat, Alberta. Um, what else do we have? Realistic DX 150, classic radios of the time. Yep, there's the ARRL audio news and mini ham repeaters. There used to be a repeater in Montreal that used to have it, and I don't know if they're still playing that here in Montreal and a repeater or not anymore. Yeah, the 990 is an MP3 player. The 880 is not. Alan, yeah, true. That's also something else that you can check out. VE2 FGJ Radio, nice to have you here. Says, have you observed the MLA30 is better to receive AM broadcast than your V antenna on the same radio? Definitely. I find my V antenna on the AM band to be deaf, relatively deaf. Listening to any AM radio station, the MLA30 is outperforming that by a large. And I don't know if you've seen my video when I compare the V and the MLA30 and talk about it, but an example is CHU 3330. It barely comes in over the noise on the V antenna in the backyard. On the MLA30, it's strong and you can hear it easily. Definitely on the lower frequencies, you know. The MLA30 beats the end-fed antenna by a long shot. But as I get higher, the V antenna actually gets better. On 10 meters, my V antenna, my end-fed antenna in the backyard definitely gets better signals than the MLA30. Above 15 megahertz ish, it starts to be, like in the 19-meter band, the 20-meter band, it's kind of close. But as I get higher and higher, the end fed wins. So it's like it depends on the band that I'm listening to. Both are very useful to have because depending on what frequency I listen to, I can listen to one or the other for sure. 0 What is currently happening with the North American Shortwave Association? Their website has not been updated for some time. Yeah, you know what? There's been a lot of people that said they have not received a bulletin from NASWA in several months. And so it's like everybody's wondering exactly what's happening. And the worst part is a lot of people, I don't know, there doesn't seem to be a lot of people complaining about it. It's kind of weird. It's as if, I don't know, when you start missing out on bulletins and stuff like that, starting to wonder if the club's not kind of slowly disappearing. So, I don't know. It's there's definitely something happening. I've heard the first thing I've heard about it was month and a half ago when I think it was Sheldon. Sheldon told me it's like a lot of people saying that they haven't received the NASWA bulletin in a while, and it's like, oh, this is kind of weird. PR 4470. Nice to have you here from Dallas, Texas. KW 1161. Nice to have you here from Tucson, Arizona. Brother Stair Relays. Yeah, so it's not going to be Brother Stair. It's going to be their own. WTW is going to have their own religious broadcast stuff. Media radio, I don't even know what the event viewer is. Like probably most people that use Windows have no idea that that exists. Daniel Mark LeBlanc got a new old radio last week on Kijiji. It's Panasonic RF4800. Oh, these are nice. Has double super het system. I assume most high-end radios have that type of system today. Yeah, most radios today are double super het for the most part. That's a nice. I like the looks of the RF4800. That's a big radio. Sunwave, thank you. Thanks for the 40K subscribers. Danny Shortwave, I'm going to join you too, Joel. I need to lose the beer belly too. I could do without the beer for a year. So let's do it together, man. That's Danny Shortwave, Kevin, and I. Let's it's gonna help my belly too. So it's gonna be perfect. RJ Dakota, coffee just shorts me out and I wear out faster when the caffeine wears out. So what else do we have? Yeah, we have the passing. We're going to talk about it. The passing of well-known. For those that don't know, we're going to talk about it. Dan V, nice to have you here, or Dan 5. I don't know if you want to have V or 5. Nice to have you here from Ohio and AWJZ. What else do we have? RJ Dakota says 1860 booms in here in my own town. Yeah. It used to. When I had the low noise where I lived before, I would hear it and I could listen to it. But when I moved here, forget it. I'm going to check that out. Danny Shortwave says ADSB and FT8 plugins work very well on the SDR Una. I'm going to have to check that out. I'm going to check that out tonight. I haven't used the SDR Play much because I actually had stolen the USB cable so I can actually control my Yaesu FTDX10. But I ordered another cable and I got it this week, so I'm going to plug it back in with the SDR Play. And I'm going to try those plugins. I haven't checked that in a while. What time is Romania on? Are you in Europe or in North America, William? So they're on at, in North America, East Coast, 0100 UTC. Is it 100 UTC, 01? And on 5990 and 7325. They have a broadcast kind of now. I don't know if don't remember the frequencies. Let me check it out here. 7375. Aren't they on 73? You know what I hate of Radio Romania? Yeah, it's on right now. 7375 kilohertz. $73.75. Let's try it here on the radio that I love to hate, the 750 Elite. So 7375. Here we go. Let's check it out on the ICOM. See how well I'm gonna get it here. 7375, 7375. That's on the V antenna in the back. Look how the V antenna is noisy compared to the MLA30. Definitely noisy compared to the MLA30. So 7375 is the the frequency for Romania right now. I really need it'd be, if I could find a way to have the antenna somewhere else for my ham radio. I'm gonna tell you. Jay Dakota says 1860 is now on with Glenn Hauser. Yeah, they have a few airings of Glenn Hauser through the week in their schedule. Spacebar been keeping an ear on channel 292 from Germany. Fred Water stayed up until 4 a.m. last night listening to Radio Educación, Radio Nacional Amazonas 6180 and 6185. Yep, absolutely. Arnie Caro, as Bobby's telling us, Arnie Caro, CO2KK from Radio Havana, Cuba. DXers Unlimited has passed away. And let's do a little. I'm sure there must be something on. Let's do a little something here. I'm going to check out if we can find a little something that we can play that's going to help us remember. Pro DXers Unlimited. Must be something there. Well, there's a video of mine. Actually, several video of mine with that. So here's the, let me just, this is the DXers Unlimited from December the 20th, 2020. Hope it starts with the beginning.
CQDX, CQDX, CQDX. This is Havana calling. CQDX, CQDX, CQDX. This is Radio Havana calling all shortwave listeners and radio amateurs. Welcome to... DXers Unlimited, Radio Havana's weekly feature dedicated to the fascinating world of radio communications.
Hi, amigos, radio aficionados around the world. This is your favorite radio hobby program, DXers Unlimited, written by Ani Coro and read today by me, Gerwin Jones.
Yeah, what he was
ready to bring you about 10 minutes of information
that's the old...
about our favorite way of spending whatever spare time is available. That is no other than playing with our radios. Now, for those of us who live in the northern hemisphere, we are now into the winter propagation season.
Let's take this one, 2017. Just gonna put the audio out for an ad. This one from 1970. Let's check this one. 2017. Sorry, guys. There we go.
CQDX, CQDX,
That's an even better one.
CQDX. This is Havana calling.
Rest in peace, Harney Coro, CO2KK.
CQDX, CQDX. This is Radio Havana calling all shortwave listeners and radio amateurs. Welcome to... DXers Unlimited, Radio Havana's weekly feature dedicated to the fascinating world of radio communications.
Hola amigos radio aficionados all around the world now having to deal with the worst high-frequency bands propagation conditions in many years. The best of my recollection brings back the times during the extended solar minimum years when Solar Cycle 23 was providing day after day of 0 sunspot counts, very low maximum useful frequencies all day long. According to the well-known British ionospheric propagation expert Steve G0KYA, you can definitely see the effects of the current poor solar conditions, As the most recent propagation charts are produced by the VOA CAP software, it is suggested we use the smooth sunspot number for doing all our calculations. Steve has added that in January of 2016, a year ago, the smooth sunspot number was 44.8. But this month, a year later, the smooth sunspot number, it is just 29.2.
We'll miss that. I loved listening to. There's something easygoing about the Xers Unlimited. It's just like a relaxed thing, and there's just a guy talking about radios. It was like the equivalent of this in radio form on Radio Havana, Cuba. It's kind of fun, and I will miss that. As like a comment that I posted on the Shortwave group is, Arnie Coro was pretty much Radio Havana, Cuba, and it's not the same anymore. So crazy. Tarek, nice to have you here from Cairo, Egypt. Nice to have you on board. Caramel, nice to have you here. What else do we have? What else do we have? What else do we have? RGA Dakota, DX150 and 160 do resemble each other, but only generally. Mad Max 2069 came to that realization when I turned 28. That would happen to my stuff if I passed. A lot of things people just wouldn't want, photos and stuff. And electronics, who knows where it will go, recycling or whatever, unless you will stuff to someone. Yeah, definitely. What to do with the stuff after that. And imagine every year, it's like one of the things I remember talking about was about the all the old radios, all the old stuff that must be going to the dump when people die. It's like so sad. Is the realistic DX394 communications receiver okay for shortwave listening? Carmel Phoenix says, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. If you have one, it's fine. But if you are to pay 100 or 150 for one, buy a new radio. In that range, you're going to get great portables. Mike WX50, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. What else do we have? Shortwave Archive, hearing the New York FM repeater on 29620 from Colorado. Glenn Danzler, nice to have you here, enjoying the show. Not in the chat today. Spine injury. Oh, take it easy, my friend. Stay safe and do take it easy. Man Max found 15 retro game consoles and 4 to 5 computers from the 80s, 90s. A lot would probably just end up either in the trash or recycling. Yeah. Marvin Motz collected more than 50 antique radios from the Marconi through the 20s, 30s, 40s. They teach technology and cultural development and tell the story of America's golden age and the role of technology. David Suro, nice to have you on board. How is the ham radio stuff going? Nice to have you here from Tucson, Arizona. Well, it's going well. I'm at 81 countries contacted. I do a lot of contacts. Been a lot in FDA, but looking more and more into SSB when there's some pileup of station. I tried yesterday. There was a Congo station on 14 to 50. It was a tough one, but never heard me. Hismet Kuzu, nice to have you here. Daniel Mark Lebon has got a Panasonic RF 4800 for $35. Man, I was on cloud nine. Yeah, man, at that price, it would come home too here. Can tell you that. Ken Lansing, a year without beer? What kind of cruel and unusual punishment is that? It's not just beer, it's alcohol completely. Kevin, Jill, Shortwave, 12-step program, virtual sobriety chips with QSL. Man. With your radio, I've purchased way too many radios recently from the estates of Silent Keys. Saved some from the dump, hoping to sell them off before my widow throws them away. Yeah. Shortwave archive. I know in North America, West Coast, so 4005 on 6020 and 7410. Yeah, and 001 UTC on 5990 and 7325 for East Coast. TV Ostrowski, no go for 7375 Southeast Alberta. Yeah, all that daylight path is not going to help you for that. It's meant for the East Coast here. Danny Shortwave listening to 7375 and ZG90. What else do we have? Kathleen, there's a zip package that checks for missing components, but it has been scanned as a virus. The plugins for Izzy Arno from Holland. One of the things you got to be careful in, especially when you're using Windows, their smart screen filter has been taking a shot at FLDG, saying that it's could be a dangerous software. It's just that it's not a known software, so Windows doesn't know what to do with it. But there's nothing bad with it. So sometimes it's false positives that are happening. Shortwave Radio Archive. Have you been listening to any pirate stations recently? There's a ton of activity on New Year's Eve. Yeah, every now and then I actually do tune. It's one of the fun things I like to chase some of the pirates. Usually Saturday night, because Saturday night I have a few things to do. I do the YouTube version of the International Radio Report. So there's apparently a pirate in AM right now on 6870. Calling themselves 80s Forever Radio. 80s Forever Radio. 6870 AM. Yes, and it is making it here with a decent signal. 6870. Let's go and get that out from here. 6870. It's a little noisy, but it's definitely there. Its signal is up to S9 plus 20 here, just next to that really huge radar splatter. Just next to it. Maybe if I listen to upper side, it'd be better. So there's some music playing, but wow, it's really close to that huge splatter of radar that's just below it. Look at that. You can see it on the screen here. Look at the big splatter of radar right here. That big splatter. And this is the signal from the pirate right here with the peak up here. But look at that big splatter. It's just below it. Just below it. K1161 says, heard Glenn Hauser last night on 5850. Does he mention anything about Arnie Curl? They were in kind of a war between each other. Kathleen, active station FT8. Yeah, I contacted both SSB Voice and FT8, 3 or 4 different Ukrainian hams, which was surprising. Daddy Shortwave, great show. Rest in peace, Arnie, mi amigo. Diva Ostrowski, until Arnie died, I never seen what he looked like. In your mind, you have an image of what that voice looks like, and it was close. So Arnie never disappoints. Rest in peace. Yep. Definitely. Silvio Courier, nice to have you here from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Daryl Jensen, nice to have you here from Portland, Oregon. One William, I have 8 old tube radios. I do worry about them too. Yeah, you know, all the tube radios. William, if you're on, it depends on what level you are. But if you're not too bad on, with the soldering iron and all of that, if you go on YouTube and all, it's quite surprising how fairly easy it is to fix those old radios yourself. It's not like today's electronics, which is kind of difficult. Keegan DXer, I would imagine that NPR hosts looked like when I was growing up listening. A voice. It's like, when I would talk, I remember I had um, I used to talk with a guy on the phone that we had never seen each other, but we were doing BBS back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And we ended up, because in the bulletin board times, you'd send message, 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 message. And at one point, it's like, and I remember we talked Commodore computers and Amigas and stuff. And at one point, it's like, you want to talk on the phone? It's going to be kind of less tedious. And I mean, we had never seen each other. And we, there's my voice, his voice, and so on. And when we finally met up, maybe a year and a half later, it's like, the surprise. It's like, it's funny. I never thought that voice would have that face on it. Oh man, it's funny. Um. Okay, let's go down. Let's go down. Let's go down. There's a few things I want to talk about. Thank you, my friend Silvio from Brazil. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? Joseph, nice to have you here. Radio whatever with DJ Dickweed. Yeah, radio whatever. Been hearing. It's like they're there almost every day. Sometimes it's crazy. And for PLS, huge signal here in Maine, S9 with some QSB. What else do we have? We go down. What else do we have? I am tired of that crap. So here we go. So Miss Linda Crapple, go away. Kevin, have you ever known Glenn Hauser to talk about the radios he uses? I seem to recall he is somewhere with the low noise floor. Yeah, where he lives in Enid, Oklahoma. It's extremely low noise. He uses one of the radio he uses, I believe, is a Drake R8. We're trying to do something, and I don't know if we'll succeed. Last year we tried, it didn't work. He's very low profile and very in his bubble. But I know that Glenn Hauser respects a lot what I do. And we've been in contact a few times for all sorts of things. He respects Sheldon Harvey, the Canadian International DX Club, quite a lot. So having him on our side, we've been trying. So last year we tried to have him on the Winterfest in a Zoom so that we can, everybody knows Glenn Hauser, but nobody really knows who is Glenn Hauser really. And he said, I'm going to think about it. Never came back, and it didn't work out. We're going to try to do it again. if it's lack of equipment, because I believe he seems to have old computers and not very recent technology. So meaning that maybe he doesn't have what it takes to be on a Zoom meeting, or so we've been trying to think, okay, how can we set that up? Is there something we can send him that would make it work, and we could, even if it's not on camera, because he did tell us he was camera shy. Well, you don't, Zoom doesn't mean you have to be on camera. You can be just an audio if you want. But yeah, there's a mystery and some mysteriousness around Glenn Hauser. It stays like that quite a lot. He's married. He's got a wife. That's something I didn't even know from from only 2 or 3 years ago. It's like, okay, oh, he's married. He's not that solitary loner somewhere. Um, it's very crazy, and believe it or not, he records World of Radio on VHS tape, and I'm not joking, and not video. He uses the audio quality of VHS tapes to record his show. And I'm wondering, what do? You send a VHS tape to WRMI? What I don't get it. So, anyways, there's something weird, and there's mysteries surrounding. But I know that he's got one of, it's a Drake or an NRD, maybe a NRD, uh yeah, Japan Radio NRD something, you know. So I don't know. It's there's so much mystery surrounding the guy. It's just funny. Pirate just got logged 6955. Let's see if I got something on 6955. Oh yeah, strong one too. Pretty strong on this one. Very nice, very very strong signal. Let's see on the I'm gonna go to USB mode. 6955. How is it here? Not too bad on the Yesu. Also a little noisier, but not too bad. What else do we have? East Med Cruiser Legion D1103, Grundy Yacht Boy 400, and Taxton area says being on radios. Cool. Where's Mr. Paul Catalan? He's sleeping with Mignon in the bedroom. Keegan DX heard an FM station from Enid, Oklahoma by Tropo occasionally. Cool. Well, come back, Robert Cross. VT Radio, holy smoke, 3K plus QSL cards and the sold listings on eBay. Like Hugh, I wonder who buys these things. Yeah, I'm $50 for a QSL card because it's a rare card. I don't see the yeah, I think that's the thing. KW1161, Japan Radio JRC 545. He's got one of the top ends. I remember. I'm trying to figure out if it's a Drake or a JRC. It's a JRC. That's what he's using, and he's got like really big, long wires. Mark, nice to have you here from Vancouver. Received a message from CHU regarding a QSL card request. They send me some information on CHU and what they do, and let me know a QSL card is on the way. Cool. 6870 playing the Ramones into New York. Richard Wagner used VHS to record Blues Fest back in the 90s. Sounds decent. Mark, I learned about this station from your recent tuning video. So many things I learned and enjoy the hobby. Sorry. Yeah, it's that's why I like making videos. There's some people that sometimes tell me, well, you tune the same band sometimes that you've done in the past with other radios, and yeah, but not everybody knows, and depending on the propagation conditions, it's not always the same. So I'm hoping that people will pick up that, there's things you can listen to. Somebody the other day was amazed, said, you have so many stations on the 25-meter band. I said, yeah, if you listen at the right time in the good conditions, because it's surprising. So, Theodore Ostrowski, Glenn Hauser, International Man of Mystery. I had no idea he's been around for years. So he does podcasts with VHS tapes. Yeah. Yeah. I would guess that the version that is online is what is sent to the different stations. Glenn Hauser was on Radio Canada International. If you guys want to, I think there's a recording of that. Just to give you an idea, for those that don't know where Glenn Hauser comes from, he's been there for a long time. The first time I heard Glenn Hauser was early 90s. I stumbled across World of Radio for the first time way back in the early 90s. And I think it's the first time I heard Glenn Hauser on the radio. And if we look here, I believe, because he was on Radio Canada International. Here we go. Radio Canada National, Glenn Hauser. Here we go. Which one was it? There's one with Radio Canada International that I've heard a long time ago. Man, I don't know if it's gonna. It's not showing up here in the search, quick search, but he was on Radio Canada International at some point. Glenn Hauser. Listeners. EX Corner. What was it? I can't find it. I stumble upon it all the time, and now that I want to find one of the recordings, I don't have it. RCI used to be on the yeah. I don't find it right now. But he was on Radio Canada International for a while with some DX steps, and we're talking late 70s. So it's been there for a long, long time. Can tell you that. What else do we have? RGA Dakota, I used to use the hi-fi portion of VHS tapes to dub to an audio cassette. It does produce a superb sound. I did record music for a wedding reception, and the only thing long-lasting enough was a VHS hi-fi. Wow. Mike WX50, I wonder if going to see Glenn Hauser would remove the mystery like Richard Dreyfuss seeing Wolfman Jack in American Graffiti. I mean, we see there's a picture of his face. I know what he looks like. There's, I don't know. He's very, very, he keeps it very, very low profile. And he's got a lot of haters because of a an attitude or a way of being. I got some haters because of that too. There's a way that we are that for some reason doesn't please some people. And Glenn Hauser has this very strict. He's obsessed with everything being perfect. What happens is that sometimes when you actually post something that is incorrect, he's going to correct you. An example of that, I had posted something about Northern Canada, the Northern Territories, and Nunavut, and he had corrected me on that. Well, some people get offended because they get corrected. I didn't get offended. It's like, I want just you to know that this is that and that's it. And yeah, okay. He likes things to be clear and um, correct. And his show is about that. Everything being correct. And so some people don't like that. They take it personally. They take it personal that it's like when I do a review, like did a review of the Elite 750. Yes, it's not worth its money, and you shouldn't buy that radio. It's good looking, that's all. It isn't that great. Well, tons of hate mail and tons of haters, and it's like, why are you taking it personally? I'm talking about a radio. I'm not talking about you or anything, and it's the same thing. The way that sometimes he will correct someone, I think some people get offended, and they shouldn't, because there's there's nothing offensive. He just wants things to be clear and correct. That's it. So I don't know. Maybe he just wants to. And he could be a very. I mean, look at our hobby in general. Who are we in the hobby? A lot of us are very, you know, in our little bubble, low profile guys that don't really want to, be out there in the spotlight. I'm out there in the spotlight. I do this for you guys. I'm the guy that's out there. But for all of you guys, a lot of you are, in your little world. You don't really wish to necessarily be out there. And you just want to keep it for yourself. And that's fine. And I think radio reaches and shortwave radio reaches a specific audience for that, being in your own little bubble. And that's fine. And maybe that's why a lot of people like radio. You're in your room, you do your little stuff, you're in your man cave, you do your radio listening, don't bother anybody. You're okay with that. You're fine with it. um Robert Osborne, picking up music on 5960 kilohertz. 5960 kilohertz. I'm right hearing something here. I'll tell you, 5960. And there's not hearing anything now, and that was what, just before the top of the hour. So you probably heard maybe something a little early. If I look at 5960, at that time you were hearing possibly. So from until 21, you're Radio Romania. You might have been hearing Radio Romania in either in SR. I don't know what's SR. And it could, yeah. And it was not one thing for sure, was not China, because China radio does not have a transmission on 5960. China radio, you got an old database. Where are you getting your stuff? Because China radio from Albania hasn't been transmitting from there in a long time. What are you using as a database for your broadcast, Robert? Go to something else, because Albania has not been transmitting China since they had that earthquake a few years ago. So what you probably, if you were listening between 2030 and 21, you were listening to Radio Romania International in SR, which I don't know what language that is. WF7I Homebrew, Bert, nice to have you on board from rural Virginia. 10 meters has been hot lately, 20 over S9 signals. Sad to hear the passing of Arnie Caro. Catlin, build a crystal radio. Yeah, it's been, I should look into that. Could be a fun project and a fun video to make too. My WX50 says, I think I heard Glenn Hauser back when I was listening to the late 70s or 80s. Oh, yeah, definitely. Keegan DXer, I stumbled across text version of Glenn Hauser's Roller Radio in Oklahoma Broadcasting News on his website in around the early 2010s. Radio RJ Dakota, heard one of Glenn Hauser's reports on Radio Netherlands DX Jukebox. Ancient. Yep. Definitely. What else do we have? What else do we have? Let me go down. Keegan DXer, Glenn Hauser commented on one of my FMDX posts on the WTF DF forums, Worldwide TVDX Association in the mid 2010s. Yeah, when you have something interesting, he picks it up and talks about it. Daniel Marc LeBlanc, I was wondering when listening to ham operators, I listened from around 7,000 to 7,300 kilohertz on lower sideband. I hear a lot of people talking around 3,500 to 3,900. Is this a ham or something else? That's the 80 meter ham band. 7,000 to 7,300 is a 40 meter ham band, and 3,500 to 4,000 kilohertz is the 80 meter ham band. It's also a amateur band. KWN61, I believe that I heard him once or twice on RCI, but my shortwave listening radio was a cheap Zenith Oceanic Anthix knockoff. T. Ostrowski, if you had your show, turn it off. Yep, that's off. KW1161 says on WTWW, Ted used to say he's mean about Mr. Hauser. I don't think he's mean. I think people take it like that, and he's not. He's more of I want things to be exactly like they are and be correct in the information. But I don't, and people might take it as mean, which is not necessarily the case. Danny Shortwave, some people take disagreement into personal attack. Yeah. RJ Dakota, Glenn Hauser is very precise. That's all. His attitude does show sometimes unintentionally. Yeah. He likes things to be straight, but it doesn't mean that he hates you. Even if the tone might sound harsh, it's not a personal attack. Never. That's never. I had a few posts that he corrected, a couple of ones with that tone. And it's like, I never took it personal. It's the way it is. It's the way he is. He doesn't hate you. He just likes things to be precise. That's all. Darren Rogers, nice to have you here from Long Island, New York. Michael says, I own an Ethon Elite 750 and Jill did a good evaluation, spot on 100%. Mike WX50, my bedroom in high school was my radio listening man cave. My parents always wanted to talk me into joining them in the living room to watch some dumb sitcoms back in the 70s. Yeah. We have our stuff, and a lot of us are in that way. We are in our little room, What else do we have? Joseph Nusal, nice to have you here. And says Glenn Hauser has been doing his reports for 40 years. I still remember when one of his reports fell on Halloween day. And by accident, his Halloween day report was number 666. I remember that. I was like, oh, okay. That's kind of a weird thing. That is 666 reports false exactly on Halloween. And 6RLS says Glenn Hauser is a shortwave saint. has dedicated his life to this hobby and activity. First heard him on the radio in the Netherlands, I think, way back in the day, and maybe Radio Canada too. Pretty crazy. No problem, Daniel. We're here for that, to help out and explain. WF7, I am learning about an AF digital mode called Vera, which is used with WinLink for emergency comms. My local ham club is very active with emergency communications. I am slowly getting more involved. Cool. That is cool. Joseph says, Glenn is dignified and values his privacy. That's all. These are good qualities. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. And, you know, Jim Gordon, hi again from Scotland. And Glenn is one of the people who encouraged my interest in DXing back in the day. Yeah. Joseph, radio listening and signal hunting are some of your activities, solitary activities, so it suits a certain temperament. Yep. No, absolutely. Absolutely. That's for sure. Jill, is that a USB microphone? It looks like an old school microphone with the stereo jack. No, this is a Shure microphone. It's into a console. It's not a USB microphone. It's our standard microphone. I always forget the dreaded model number that everybody knows because it's like the most popular microphone that exists in the world that everybody has. But this one here is a USB one that I use also. This one's a USB, which is a Maono USB one, which isn't bad, but doesn't. This one has the Shure microphone has a way better audio, and it goes into a console. So, and it's not a stereo. It's like one of those console plugs, so that everything goes out. The console is actually here. I'm going to show you guys here. So this is where the console is. So you see that's where everything's plugged in. This microphone, including the radios, when I put audio for the radios and stuff, this is where it is. So this is the console I'm using. That, XLR plug, Danny Shortwave. So everything's plugged there. I can plug the audio of any radio here and there. I can plug audio of anything. I can play the audio. The console itself is plugged in USB into the mini PC. Actually, the PC that's streaming the show right now, just to show you guys what it is, this is what I'm using. That little block right here. This is a B-Link Core i7 PC with Windows 11 on it. This is what is streaming the show right now. And this is what's been streaming the show for the last 2 years at least. And it has Windows. The console's plugged on it and everything. So this is... and the big white thing that you saw was one of my big white spots. So to have equal lighting, I use big white spots like this that are actually lighting. So I got 2 of them for the lighting of the place here, so it looks as equal as possible. So that's the a quick look in the a quick look at the how do you say it? The how do you call it? The back of the studio or whatever. So anyways, yep, XLR and everything. King and the Exeter listen to classical music from local KUAF Fayetteville at Kearnsaw 91.3 at night before I go to sleep. Yeah, that's a good way to go to bed. So Danny Shortwave, nice little PC for streaming, works well. Yeah, works great. It's pretty powerful for what it is too. So and I can do pretty much anything on it. And I got another one here, which is a less powerful one, but behind this radio is another one. This is another one, another mini PC. So this one is a Core i5, so less powerful. Runs Windows 10. It's actually the one right now plugged on the Yaesu FTDX10 the for the control with for FT8 and all of that. Also, I like these mini PCs. Apart from this laptop because I'm a gamer, I like to do gaming. This laptop is extremely powerful, and I play some of the latest games on it. And so this is really cool. I will always have one laptop like this, really powerful laptop. But honestly, for the big screen, because I have the big screen right there, you guys could see. That's what I have in front of me. That's a 55-inch, and so what's happening is I have the gaming laptop. Gaming laptop plugs on that screen when I game, so I have a big screen to play my games. So I always have a big, powerful laptop for gaming. But for the rest, now, um, if I buy a new PC in the future for here, it'll always be one of those mini PCs. I'm in love with these. The B-Links are pretty nice, and they have all the category of power you need, depending on the price you're going to pay. And I just love them. They were great. They're very, very quiet, and they're just perfect. Plug one of those in the living room. I got one of the mini PCs like that that's plugged into the big screen TV in my living room. I mean, it's small, little, just a little cube. That's all. And 6 RLS trying to make some PSK 31 contacts today on 20 meters. Heard from USS Midway and NI6 IW in San Diego. Answered my call. Commemorating the 50th anniversary of last combat role Vietnam. Wow. No problem, Danny Shortwave. It's kind of cool. It gives ideas also. I know you're streaming stuff now. You're doing a lot of streams. Maybe you're wondering, what setup you want to do or what changes you want to make, or maybe you're thinking of doing something else, or changing the way you do it. And I think it's gives ideas. It gives ideas of I used to stream from the laptop for a while. Actually, I was streaming directly from the gaming laptop here. That was my streaming machine, but I wanted to have that machine completely you know used for something else if I want to do some stuff, or if I want to, like now, if I want to have the air spy on it. I wanted to have it like alone. um the only thing I want to add, because by using OBS Studio, I can share, of course, what I'm doing. And because now I'm actually on separate machines for everything, I can't share my screens because each screen is on a different computer. So one of the things I've been looking at right now is a video box. You plug in all the HDMI in it, and that thing, you can switch between everything. And I could plug that on the PC, so I can share any screen of any computer that is plugged in that box. So that's the next step that I want to do. So like that, I could share with you, an SDR screen or whatever. The other thing I want to do also, I've been looking at checking for some screens. The Yaesu FTDX10 has, of course, a DVI-D port in the back. So I thought it might be an interesting idea to have a screen here with the Yaesu waterfall and the Yaesu info on it. That could be kind of nice for you guys to see in the background. So slowly, things that are I want to change and want to do. Jim Gordon, been rotating my radios. I like to test the various models. Today it's ATS 909, RFB 65, PL 660. Tomorrow the Shortwave 55, 7600 JR, PL 310 ET. Like to see they still work. Yeah, I do the same. I kind of go through the different models from time to time. behind the scenes. Yeah, behind the scenes. Exactly. Daniel Mark LeBlanc, my wife was watching a Netflix special on the royal family last week. In one of the episodes, a ham operator is listening to a private conversation with one of the royals when he was on the phone. Rob, very cool tour. Thanks. Cool. And you can't anymore, Daniel. You could easily in the past listen to phone conversations. You can't anymore, unfortunately. Today, everything is really, digital and pretty much impossible to, you know, to listen. Danny Shortwave, yes, I like those mini PCs too. How much RAM is on that PC? The one that I showed you that's streaming is 16 gigabytes of RAM as a 1 terabyte SSD, NVMe SSD in it. The weak link on it is the crapo Intel Iris graphics crap, which I always hate. The onboard graphics are always crappy. But I would have had to put like $100 more for the. But I didn't really need anything else, anyways, because the gaming PC is where I do all the powerful stuff. What I like, even with the gaming PC, when you run SDR console V3 on a PC that has a NVIDIA graphics chip, the SDR console actually uses very little CPU. It uses the power of your graphics chip to actually work. So that's also something that's kind of neat because it leaves the computer pretty much doing nothing. All the job of the waterfall and the software running is done in the NVIDIA graphics processor. So it really kind of doesn't take power. You can do so many other things at the same time, and the computer still runs really smooth. So, it's kind of cool also for that. If you guys have a higher end PC with, a graphics chip, think about that sometimes for some of the software like that, for sure. Daryl Jensen, thanks for all your product reviews and beginner listening videos. I learned a lot. Have an XH Data D808 and an RSP1A. Cool. RGA Dakota, back in the day when I used to listen to lower frequencies, ship to shore calls were common. I used to hear them all the time. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was the fun part back in the day. Listening to all those international calls from ships was cool. Timothy Exter, what are the specs for your gaming PC? Well, it's reached 2 years of age, so it's specs that were brand new 2 years ago, but it's a AMD Ryzen PC that has 16 gigabytes of RAM. It is very powerful. It was one of the powerful Ryzen CPUs of the day. First time ever I buy something else than an Intel, because I always bought Intel before. And it has an NVIDIA 1660 Ti graphics card with 6 gigabytes of onboard RAM for the graphics GPU only. And still runs all the latest games pretty much in full resolution. So right now I'm playing, what are the games I'm playing? I'm playing one of the latest that I'm playing. So let me just go into the games here. Plague Tale Requiem, which is pretty nice. And of course I play Halo Master Chief Collection. I have the latest Halo Infinite that I play. Forza Horizon 5, I love to play. Stuff like that, of course, multi-session and play online with other gamers and stuff. So it's lots of fun. Carlike on old cordless phones used to be 16, 17. The first generation cordless phones were 1600 to 1700 kilohertz. Those were the one with the really long antenna. Then came the VHF low band cordless phones. Those were from in the 46 to 49 megahertz range. And then came the 900 megahertz, and then the 2.4 gigahertz. And when we moved to 2.4, most of them became spread spectrum technology, which was you couldn't actually listen to it anymore. Robert Cross, do you use antenna tuners on your radios? I bought one today. Not on the main radios that I listen to. The only antenna tuner I use is really on the ham transceiver, the auto tuner, to tune for transmissions. But I do not use a antenna tuner for receive. GA Dakota, we had a G cordless phone that had a frequency in the shortwave range about 26. Wow. Or 16. That's weird. Maybe it was an harmonic, because it's crazy. David in Barcelona, Spain. Nice to have you on board. Great to see you're behind the scenes. Also thinking of mini PCs for the software that doesn't run anymore on my Vista Shack PC. Nice to have you here, EA3IEK. Man, I make so many contacts with Spain. You guys have a lot of hams there. Keegan DXer, my dad had a Bell South cordless phone that I could hear on shortwave. Rob, SDR Waterfall, always cool to watch. Yep, definitely. So I'm thinking there could be, because right now what I find is that, there's fire here, but maybe it could be more interesting than just fire. So I'm thinking of what's going to come next in the visuals of the live show, basically. What else do we have? TB Rostowski's Netflix made the radio guy a greasy loner and a rundown trader. Danielle says, Mark LeBlanc says, we have been seeing many shortwave stations slowly fade away in recent years. Do we see many new stations actually being born? China sure has a list of stations. I would say that we're not losing on the total count. The total count is that in recent years, what we've lost, we've gained in other ways. So, for example, we lost Greece, but we had gained Mongolia through WRMI relays and all sorts of programming like that. Thanks to WRMI, the number of things is relatively stable right now. We're not losing, we're staying at a certain count. What is mostly the big problem is that we're not the target areas anymore in North America. So that's much more of a problem. So that is the bigger problem and makes it more difficult to listen, especially if it's noisy. Hook 911, new 4th, 5th generation PCI Express NVMe drives are crazy fast. Oh, yeah. My WX50, I wish I could remember the name of the console I set up for our music teacher at school. Microphone had XLR to console and output USB to computer. Yeah, mine is an Audio 2000 console. N6 RLS, doesn't the UK have any laws against repeating overheard private conversations? The US sure does. Giving the press recording of private radio traffic would be unlawful here. Yeah, here in Canada, the rules of anything you hear that is not meant for you. So we're not talking about radio broadcasts. We're talking about anything that the conversations, the information is not meant for general public. Here in Canada, what the rule is, if you hear something, you can't repeat it to somebody else. You can broadcast it to someone else, and you cannot use it for any commercial gains or money gains. The funniest thing about that is that for a long time, when the Montreal police was on the clear, the tow trucks would all listen to the cops because they would hear when accidents would happen, and they could go to the spot for, towing the cars, which technically was unlawful. But yeah, we do have that rule right now. Like Carl Icahn says, shortwave transmitters use a lot of power, not many new ones. I think the future of shortwave is with relays, not new transmitters. I think that's what's going to happen. There was a great article that I read a few months ago about how Madagascar Relay is actually making money off of the relays. They're actually making money, which means there's a market for that, which means WRMI could embark in something like that, have more relays. And I think a lot of the shortwave future is going to rely on a handful of powerful transmitter sites: Bulgaria, Austria, um, maybe Germany, WRMI, a transmitter site like Madagascar, maybe Botswana. There's going to be relays like that around the world. We'll have a handful of relays that are going to transmit Bulgaria. They're going to transmit relays of all the stations. That's going to be a lot more cost effective for any station. No maintaining of, antennas, no engineers, no having anybody there, not having to take care of transmitters. Just pay a bill. We're going to use that for that amount of time. So we're going to pay that bill every month. And it's going to be a lot more cost effective. And that's going to be the future, honestly, of transmitting on shortwave. A handful of well-placed relays will have the bulk of all the shortwave broadcasters. Jim Gordon, see, you have a Saint-Jean ATS 909, one of my favorites for all-around reception, particularly in the long-wave stations like RT Ireland on 252. How do you rate it? I got all the iterations of the 909. I've got the original as the Radio Shack DX398. I've got the 909, and I also got the 909X2. How do I rate it? The 909, 909X, not bad, honestly, as receivers, but deaf with the telescopic. That's the main comment I would have. The tuning system on the 909, unfortunately, seems to fail on a lot of radios. My 909 is starting to have a hard time with the tuning. 909X2, not a bad radio, but there's been a lot of complaints of low audio on SSB. And there's that the automatic variable bandwidth thing that's useless. They could have maybe made that radio a little better. And it's a little off frequency. So not bad. For long wave, medium wave, probably really good. They seem to be good on that. But for the price they are sold, I wish they would have maybe done a little more to make them better. And especially 909X2, which is a very sexy and very beautiful, like the 909. They're beautiful radios. But they do have some lacking. But if you use outdoor antennas on the 909X, you're okay. They work great. What else do we have? TVDX Nigel has always bought Intel as well. I'm playing Modern Warfare 2 2022 now. Cool. So what else do we have? So master players, you need to get at least Steam and Epic Games. Yeah, I'm on the Xbox because the games that I go through right now are through the I'm subscribed to the Xbox Game Pass for PC. So you get a selection of games that you can play, without you just pay your fee every month, and I kind of like that. I got a few games that I purchased one through Steam. I don't like the fact that you have to install tons of things. Like, for example, I played a game from Electronic Arts an adventure game, Solitude. What was it? Something Solitude. I hate the fact that you have to have the EA core stuff there in order to play a game. This is something I hate about today's games. I'm tired that you have to install their own darn system and it has to stay there to play a game. I liked it when you just installed a game in the good old days without having all the crap around it. That is what is restraining me. I don't want to have Steam installed, and I don't want to have all these things installed just because I have to play one game. I hate that. So I'm just staying with the Xbox Game Pass right now, and for now it's fine for me. There's a lot of stuff there, but I hate having to install these things extra. Okay. What else do we have? What else do we have? Daryl Jensen says, beginning of the day, back in 75, had a modified World War II ARK-5 aircraft transmitter with Lafayette receiver. Only had novice license with code in 80 meters. Cool. Lorette, nice to have you here. Greg, nice to have you on board. UV Studios, nice to have you here. Then Mark LeBlanc, do you have white stuff on the ground yet in Montreal? Yeah, we had a foot of snow yesterday. If you guys want to see what it looks like, I don't have my tablet here. I'll show you in miniature on my phone what it looks like from the front camera. So we are right now. This is what it looks like outdoors. Just to give you guys an idea. So this is one, we have a foot of snow that we had. It almost all melted about a week ago, but now we have a foot of snow. So this is where we are at. RJ Dakota, Romania still has programs beamed to North America. Do any others? So we have Radio Romania. We have the Voice of Turkey that has programs beamed to North America. We have Radio Havana, Cuba. We have Radio Thailand, which is a tougher one to get, that also beams to North America. We have a lot of beamed to North America through relays, Radio Slovakia, Radio Prague, Radio Tirana, Albania. We have Radio for Peace International, the one out of France. They're all beamed through, WRMI to North America, technically through their relays. And we have China Radio International that's beamed to North America through Cuba now. So we have that. And for the rest, it's a lot of stations that you'll get that are mostly beamed to Europe and Africa that will get here in North America. Does weather have any influence on reception? When we have a storm here, it seems like reception is actually better. That's more of an impression than anything else, because on shortwave itself, apart from the fact that in the summer there's more static crashes, the weather itself on the shortwave length doesn't have much of an effect, and it's really on higher frequencies. As the higher you get in frequencies, the more it is a problem. So, of course, as the wavelength gets shorter, that also means that they might be blocked by something. For example, very like ultra high frequencies, very, very high up in the gigahertz, can actually be blocked by raindrops because of their wavelength. But on the shortwave side, usually doesn't have the impression you have might be simply a coincidence of the day it's bad weather, is there's simply better propagation than anything else. David says, yeah, Gilles, we might not be as many hams here in the EA as in the US or Canada, but we sure are noisy. Oh, you're everywhere. That's definitely. Steven Ostowski, does the BBC still do calling Falklands? It was once a week, I recall, many years ago. I haven't heard that in a long, long time, honestly. King and DXer sometimes hear FM stations by eSkip, while storms are in the region of the station I hear. I occasionally storm here during skip. A lot of eSkips seem to be related to some of the weather patterns, definitely. Definitely. Bill Mean, nice to have you here from Pennsylvania. What else do we have? Just Radio Check says using a relay takes all the challenge out of listening to shortwave radio. Well, it depends what you're looking for on shortwave. For a program listener point of view, it's great because you get clear signals and it's fun for that. But if you're a DXer, I understand that it might not be as fun. But I'd rather have relays everywhere with tons of stations than have nothing at all because they're all closing down their transmitter sites. I'm part program listener and part, DXer, but I'm happy with relays. I got no problem with that. But it depends what you're searching for out there. That's for sure. Oh, there's Radio Estéreo de España also. That's for North America, by the way, on 9690 kilohertz. Their English is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. What else do we have? Yeah, Radio Netherlands used to have Bonaire and Madagascar. BBC used to have Antigua. 5975 in the evening was from Antigua. It was relayed. It was not from the UK. So, relays been for a long time. When Radio Taiwan used to be Voice of Free China in the 80s, they were using Family Radio, which is now WRMI transmitter site in Okeechobee. One of the first relays from there. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. What do I think of the ICOM 705? I'm not seeing it in use. I've not used it, or I've only seen what people that own one talk about. Seems to be a great rig, honestly. Jim Gordon, concerning the original ATS 909, there seems to be quality control variations. My one has good shortwave reception using only telescopic aerial. However, like most sets, it benefits from a good aerial. Actually, they all are a little deaf. They're not zero, meaning you do get stations on the telescopic. But if you would compare it with a good portable on telescopic, you would see that there's a difference, that the 909 receives less signal, but it doesn't mean it doesn't receive. So it's tough to note unless you start comparing it with others, and that's where you see that it's different, because they all were pretty much categorized as deaf. The 909X is the same. They haven't changed the input. It is technically deaf. When I say deaf, it looks like a harsh word of it's not receiving. No, it's receiving. It's just that it's not as sensitive as a portable that is sensitive with the telescopic. That's all. But if you use it on telescopic, you do have reception. I mean, if I use the telescopic on the 909 or Radio Shack DX398 or 909X, I'll get stations. I'll get Radio Romania. I'll get all the stations that broadcast. It's just that comparing it with some good known radio, that's where you see, it's not as strong. It's there and it's still listenable and it's still okay. It's just that you notice there's a difference. But there, on the other side, one of the cool things about it is if you have an outdoor antenna, they tend to not overload, and that's pretty cool. Apparently, the telescopic deafness comes from a mismatch in the way that it sends the signal to the circuit board, apparently. Richard Califano just purchased the RSB1A. How long does the install take? 2 minutes. You would download SDR Uno. You install it. Once it's installed, you plug in the RSB1A. you're up and running. It's going to be longer to learn to use it than to install it, actually. What else do we have? Jim's radar check, shooting for the record of least amount of snow in a season. Here, what's interesting, they were talking about the amount of snow. Here we had, like last week we had a lot of rain. There was almost no snow on the ground. Now we have a foot of snow that fell in the last 24 hours. The funny thing is, when you look at the amount of snow that we received since December, we're in the normal. But it's just that we get these really high temperatures that make it melt in between storms, which is kind of weird. RJ Dakota, I'll let you keep that snow. Rob says, I agree on the different gaming platforms like Origin, Ubisoft, and others. I only use Steam for PC gaming on my Windows 10 PC. Yeah, I'm tired of having to install those things. I'm really, really tired of that. David says, here in Spain, we have forecasts for temperatures dropping for the next week. Really, really hoping this happens. Gary Pence, nice to have you here. KM5X and Dallas. Michael, is it still cold or normal weather? Here it's normal. Here we haven't had the cold. In the western part of Canada have been freezing crazy a few times this year. We in this winter. Here we haven't had any real cold weather. It was either normal or just above warmer than normal, So it's like what else do we have? Daniel Mark LeBlanc, Ethan 750 and Texan 750 are exactly the same radio. Is Texan and Ethan the same company? Nope. Two different companies. It's just that Ethan took the Texan S2000 and decided that they would brand it as the Ethan 750, then the Ethan 750 Elite, and also there's a Grundig version. You have one with Grundig name on it, but Ethan is not Texan. Ethan is a separate company, but Ethan uses other companies to make the radios for them. So in this case, they took the S2000. BT Radio, something on 6936 upper sideband. Let's check it out. 6936. Yeah, definitely something there. There's like this weird sounding echo was over it. So yeah, good signal, 6936, and I can see that 6955 is also very, very nice. So 6936, 6955, upper sideband Pirates, pretty strong here. Greg, back in the 70s on AM, there was a station play rock music. Yeah. WOKY. There's a lot of music on the AM back in the day. David says, I'm also fortunate to be able to copy an Italian medium wave station, music station, or a radio studio X 1188 kilohertz with Sequam AM stereo. Pretty cool. KW161 used my SDR player SPONA on a Raspberry Pi. Downloading and installing their scripts took 4 hours to get working. Yeah, that's a different. When you want it on some specific different platform, definitely very different. Now, Mark LeBlanc, my sister-in-law called us from Ontario during Christmas to announce they were having a storm of a century. I told her in New Brunswick that's called Thursday. RGA Dakota, Texan is also an OEM company and provides radio equipment for other companies. Yep. Texan shortwave radio I've seen on YouTube has actually got the A1 nameplate on it. Yep. WF7i Umbro, your console setup. Mini PCs look great. I will likely replace my Dell PC tower I use for my TV with one of those. Oh, yeah, and they're really powerful, so really, really great for that. Last time I had a tower was, I don't know. Last time I was using a tower was a PC. Probably goes into 2005-ish. Then moved on to laptops. My first laptop was a Windows Vista Toshiba. So that was my first laptop, 2008, something like that. Converted to Windows 7 after, and been on laptops since then, honestly. WFJ159, nice to have you here. What else do we have? Let me just check it out here. John Beckham, nice to have you here from Northeast Florida. Lots of activity on and around 15,000 kilohertz this morning. Oh, yeah, with the high solar activity, you hear all the Asian and all the Pacific stuff. It was pretty cool. What else do we have? What else do we have? So down. Master player radio and television plays gaming. It's like you want, VT Radio. If you want to be a moderator, I can set you up moderator. Just let me know. You got no problem with that. If you don't want to, no problem. If you want to, just say yes, I want to. Denmark Leblanc was wondering if there was a ham radio community in Russia. Yeah, surely. There's a lot of hams in Russia. I've had a few contacts with some Russian hams over the last few months, and there surely are some radio clubs and ham clubs in Russia, for sure. Radio news on 15770 WRMI says call icon. Sorry, guys. Got a little. Let me just check out something here. So, Shortwave listener says, radio user ceased publication in December. So, you guys in the UK have talked about Radio User magazine. It is gone. They ceased publication in December, but some of the columns that were in it were incorporated into its sister magazine, Practical Wireless, which is targeted to the amateur radio community. So thank you, Tony, shortwave listener. This is so Radio User magazine is gone. So thanks for that. And question here for Windows 11. Nick Sharp is asking if you should move to Windows 11 if Windows 11 has any problems with SDR Play devices and so on. No, it doesn't. But if you have a Windows 10 machine, honestly, there's no real incentive to move to Windows 11 until, I'll say it all the time. Who moves to Windows 11? Enthusiasts that just want to have the latest version of Windows. Because for the rest, if you're on Windows 10 and it works fine, just stay there. It's okay. And but if you do move on to Windows 11, yeah, the SDR Play devices work great. I have Windows 11 on every machine here except one. And the only reason it's not upgraded to Windows 11 is because it doesn't have the minimum requirements. And because I make videos of Windows 10. Because for the rest, everything here is on the Windows 11 and works fine. But like I said, there's no need to, if it works, it works. Dave in Barcelona says, can copy Studio X stereo with our AirSpy HF Plus Discovery and Studio SDR software, but doing it this way. A lot of QRM from Hungary on 1179 kilohertz. What else do we have? Ricky, I can still hear amateurs on 10 meters, somewhat strong signals. Accents suggest lots of folks in the southern half of the United States. One person made mention of Alabama. Yeah, the 10-meter band has been open quite late after sunset with the high solar activity. I can tell you that. Shortwave archive, Radio Romania, 7220, starting in English. Let's check that out here. And that one is for Europe, I think. Pretty good, though. Pretty good. 7220. It is for Western Europe, but it's working great. There's some hams over it, though. So there's some hams over it, but yeah, we're a good signal in the East Coast at least. 7220. And pretty cool. So two pirates, Radio Romania, two pirates. There's lots of stuff to listen to, some ham stuff. So we're gonna check out the different bands and stuff. I'm gonna check out how I can shield all the equipment here so that I can actually at some point maybe make some live contacts and stuff. That could be fun, and that's going to be cool. Maybe even some digital contacts, PSK or whatever, for anybody that wants to try out a contact live on the show. I think is going to be something kind of cool. But for that, I will need to shield and make sure that the console doesn't get all the transceiver signal in it. Once that is going to be fixed, we'll be good at doing contacts for sure. Ricky, still having much rough time with Romania B22, much more difficult than A22. Yeah, the winter is also kind of tough on Radio Romania. Even here on the East Coast, the night the 01 UT for East Coast is kind of a rough one. It's okay, it's receivable, but it's not as good. It's not as good. Which makes me listen often in the afternoon like this on the bands. Jim Gordon, concerning radio user now in the UK Practical Wireless magazine, the latest issue has very little of broadcast bands' interest. However, it requests suggestions for items of interest for broadcast listeners. So definitely it's not going to be the same thing. When you move on from one magazine to the other, it's definitely not the same. That's for sure. That's for sure. Hey, Blind Picker, nice to have you here. Rob in Connecticut, W0RAB. Nice to have you back, Blind Ham. Nice to have you here. Maybe we'll have a contact on the bands at some point, W0. Are you active, a lot of activity on SSB, Blind Picker? Will I be hearing you on the bands in upper sideband, or are you more like Morse code or whatever? Yeah, Solar Flex is high, above 200. Somebody was asking me what's the highest solar flux I had seen, and back in the 80s, I used to keep a count. I used to keep a count of the solar activity and solar flux numbers, and I still remember the highest solar activity I've seen in the whole life in one of the 80s. One of the 80s high peaks of solar activity, 353. So 5960 kilohertz for those that want is Voice of Turkey. Voice of Turkey, a little bit of low audio, but Voice of Turkey is on 5960 right now with their broadcast to Eastern North America. So Voice of Turkey on 5960 kilohertz right now. Um, mm, 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 mm. What else do we have? Ricky, does high solar flux also mean nighttime HF propagation behaves more like daytime? It is. It is better, which means that you'll see that higher frequencies tend to keep active later in the evening. Um, and there are some advantages in the general listening of HF signals, yes. So, yes, even through the night, it will help because since the ionosphere is much more ionized, it takes much more time for it to become or to get back to nighttime conditions without solar ionization. So it definitely stays a little more ionized and does help definitely in the nighttime propagation. But it's still, it's still night. So, the higher frequencies take more time to shut down, but they shut down eventually also, especially with the very long nights of winter. It'll be more apparent in the summer. If we get a solar flux of 220 in July, you'll notice that nighttime signals are going to be like crazy, crazy strong, even on higher frequencies. There was somebody yesterday that was listening for the first time. He was happy because for the first time ever, he heard Radio Thailand on 13750, which is kind of cool. Daniel Mark LeBlanc, is the H51X still your primary radio of choice, or have you moved to something else? Nope. If I choose a radio, often that'll be the one. That said, it's not necessarily what I would consider the best radio to own. It depends what you want, and there's a lot of other radios that are fine. So, but if I tend to listen to a radio, my very often my choice will go down to H501X definitely. But there's a lot of the the activity here that's there's a lot of radios that are great anyways. But it's often my go-to radio, definitely. What else do we have? KW1161. Yeah, well, the Carrington event is you need specific conditions that are there. We did have a near miss of something pretty major in the last solar cycle when one of the X flares was not Earth directed, but if it would have been, we might have been in for some really really rough conditions. So the sun is active, and we lived next to a star that, even though compared to many other stars, isn't as bad, still can pack a big punch in one of those solar flares, for sure. Jim Gordon, does anyone know the source of the utility QRM often affecting WRMI on 15770? I've never had any RTTY or utility QRM on 15770. What radio are you using when you're listening, Jim? Just out of curiosity. Because I never have any interference on 15770 from any utility signal. I'm going to check a list here to see if anything's showing up on close to that frequency. But here, I don't have anything on my list that's his utility on round, but it's kind of interesting. And what time? Do you have specific times when it happens more than others? What else do we have? Jim's radio check, hearing 7850 CHU Canada. Oh, Ricky, you're the one. You were happy with Thailand? Oh, man. Because I saw the post go quickly and I didn't realize, I didn't look. It was just like very quick. It was like, well, I'm so glad I haven't gone to eat, dinner. It's like I stayed on and I heard Radio Thailand. Darren Rogers, I'm receiving a strong station 11760. This is Radio Havana, Cuba. It is a Radio Havana, Cuba. 11760 is one of their main frequencies. What else do we have? What else do we have? Take care of you, T Radio. Stay safe. Oh, there's no slow. Oh, do you mean when you're listening to a show? Because, okay, here's the thing 15770. The utility that you might be having is specific to a show. There are some shows on WRMI that have digital signals on them. So there's a few shows that you might be listening to. There's what it's called, the shortwave radiogram that is aired on WRMI that has some digital modes on it. And there's a few shows I know that have digital modes on it. Some is slow scan TV, but there are some that are other types of digital modes that you need to check out what they're using and decode with a software. It depends on the show you're listening to. Some shows have some digital modes mixed in. Definitely. Shortwave Archive 7410 China Radio International in English. Let me check if I hear anything here. 7.410. It's something very weak. Here's something very, very weak. Daniel Mark, when moving to the airband on the Ethon Satellite 750, do you have to disconnect the loop antenna and use a whip? Yeah, the whip is what's used on airband. FM and FM and airband use the telescoping antenna. There is, though, the FM jack on the right side of the radio. I believe it also works for the airband, but by default it uses the telescopic antenna. No, it's you're probably listening to a show, Jim, that has digital modes on it. You might have been listening to the shortwave radiogram, which is a digital mode transmission that lasts 30 minutes. Yeah, Pop Shop Radio also uses those, Ricky. Definitely. Pop Shop Radio does have digital modes mixed in. Take care, Christian Marcoux. Fais attention à toi. Et bonne soirée à toi aussi. So, take care, Greg. Stay safe, and see you next week. How cold is going to be where I am? They say it's going to be minus 14. Minus 14 is what? About close to 7 or 8 Fahrenheit. That's pretty much what's going to be here tonight, which is normal. It's not cold for this time of year. It's just pretty much normal weather for this time. Chuck Yunkin, nice to have you here. Yeah, the aircraft, the VHF airband is in AM mode. KW61, MFSK is quite used often on the radiogram. Yeah, MFSK 32. I believe they start in MFSK 32 and then move on to different modes as the show goes on. This is a music show also. KBC does have digital modes, definitely. So these are things to check out. Definitely. Take care, Robert Cross. And talking a good night, I will also be saying good night to everybody. We've been on for 3 hours and 15 minutes, and I hope that you enjoyed the show today. And so, yeah, Jim, FLDG will decode most of those, honestly. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here as usual. It was nice to have you on board, and hope you enjoyed. Now I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go make some chicken or something. I don't know. I'm gonna check it out. And of course, I got a few things to do tonight, and I'll be listening to the radio. So if I hear anything special, and just gonna check it out. And nice to have all of you here. Hope that everybody enjoyed the show today. We had some nice discussions of all sorts of things, shortwave, radio related. And so take care, everybody. Stay safe. Love you all. And see you next Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time. Stay safe, everyone. Love you all.